You've reached Reflecting Back with Michelle podcast. We are live stream with Miss Candy and with Candy B Photography. She has blessed me with her presence, and she's going to tell us all about her story and her trials and tribulations and success. And welcome, Candy.
Thanks. Thanks for
How are
having
you
me.
doing?
I'm good. It's you say trials and tribulations. I'm like, oh yeah, there's been that.
Well, let's start with now. Have you always been in photography?
No, I was actually in the corporate world. I worked for a big financial institution here in Springfield, Missouri for a decade as a coordinator, a site coordinator. So I did that for a while, but I was doing photography kind of on the side while I was doing that before I made the leap to just photography.
Gotcha. And then, so let's talk about that leap. Let's talk about like, how did you get the drive? Like, where did your drive come from? And
Um,
then let's talk about how scary it was. So first, let's talk about your drive. Where did that come from?
the drive was I just really I always liked working with people, and I was working with people at the financial institution, but it was very, um, I get antsy, like I don't like to be tied down to a desk the whole time. And I was doing pictures for families and for people, and I just loved it so much. I enjoyed it so much. And I just felt like, man, this is what I need to be doing. And my day job, I started to feel like it was just a hindrance on what I was truly supposed to be doing in my life.
Gotcha. And
So,
so when you were at this corporate job, what? So I also work a corporate job too, but I have it's hybrid, so I get to go 50-50, and I love my office environment, absolutely love it. But it seems like I squirrel off. Like there's just so much, and I just want to, be independent, and so I totally get that. I totally get that. So here, you're in your corporate world, and did you go to school or anything for photography?
I went to school. I did go to school for photography, sort of. So I went to college out of high school for graphic design, and that's kind of where my base of Photoshop started. I didn't enjoy graphic design as far as for advertising and creating graphics and things, so that wasn't my niche. So I stopped going because the school I was going to, they just didn't have photography as a credited course at the time, and they may now. But
Okay.
so then later on, I went back to school and started. I looked into photography courses. They weren't credited, but I took them anyways because I wanted to understand my equipment and the fundamentals of how photography really works.
Gotcha. And so I remember like us talking a few weeks ago, and how you were talking about like you're like, I got this. I'm gonna be a star at this. And then you soon found out that maybe it's not so easy. Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, it's definitely not easy. I mean, the you feel like you've got it, but then you it. So I'll backtrack a little bit. So when I first started, I did what a lot of photographers do, which is basically give away our services. Oh yes, I'll do a session for you for $50, $100, and I'm going to give you all the images, and then we're working, trying to edit 100, 80, 100 so images, and at the end of the day, we're depleted, and we're like, I didn't hardly make any money. Like this isn't sustainable
Right.
to continue to do this job.
Mhm.
So then I had to get to a point of pricing myself correctly, cost of business, taking into account that I wanted to have this as a sole income. and still be able to upgrade my equipment and my systems and do the things that I want to do. And that's not possible on not charging the correct prices. So that was difficult because you get to love your clients and
Sure.
then having to tell people like, hey, my prices have changed.
Right.
It's an
Now, is that
uncomfortable
awkward with
conversation.
family? You know, if families want to do it, and then you're like, okay, I charge, by the way. Do you have to have that conversation?
No, I mean, generally, if it's my immediate family, I don't charge my immediate family. I just don't.
Yeah,
But they don't ask me to do a whole lot. They don't take me for granted and they don't take
that's good.
advantage of it either. And as far as my friends, close friends, it's funny, but they're the ones that want to pay me. Like
Hmm.
they just understand and they've seen me work and they're like, no, we're gonna, they don't even want a discount. They're like, well, we're gonna pay you. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Now, you were talking about how when you picked up a camera that you just thought that you're just overly confident. Tell us a little bit tell us a story about your first time where you're like, and then not so
I
much.
got
Yeah.
this. Uh, so I was picking up a camera just kind of because in the back of my mind, I had remembered that that was an interest of mine in high school. I did yearbook, but I didn't do the camera stuff, but I was like really fascinated by it. I was interested in doing it. And I thought, and I was looking for a hobby at the time. And I was thinking, man, I really enjoyed photography. I bet I could do that. I bet I know what I'm doing. And so somebody loaned me their camera, and it was a film camera. Digital was just starting to become more of a thing at that point.
Now, when you
And
say film camera, you're talking like the Kodak. You pull out
Yep,
the film, take it
yep,
to Walmart, get it. Okay, all right.
yep. Like you don't know what you did until you develop it.
Right. Gotcha.
um, and so I took my friends out and I was like, hey, I really want to do this. You want to come with me to the park and do some pictures? And
Mhm,
they're like, yeah, that sounds like fun. So we did that,
mhm.
and I can see it all in my head now. I can visualize those pictures in my head, and I think I still have them somewhere.
You have
Um,
nightmares sometimes about.
but I pretty much overexposed all
Mm,
the pictures. And unfortunately, because it wasn't digital at the time,
mhm,
I didn't know that until I got it developed.
mm,
So that kind of started me on getting a digital camera
mhm,
because I was thinking, man, I if I had something where I can at least in that moment see what I'm doing wrong, I can
mhm.
make some adjustments on settings and fix things instead of going out spending a whole hour and then coming back and realizing that I didn't know what I was doing at all.
Wow,
So,
wow.
but it was funny. I have so many pictures of when I first started, and I had, because I had the whole mentality of Photoshop, right? So I was like, oh, Photoshop, I'll fix it later. I'll fix it later. I wasn't doing good work, you know?
Hmm. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I was basically producing these pictures and I didn't want anyone to see the proofs, the raw format. And I was like, I will fix them and edit every single one of these before you ever see them. I
Hmm.
had to take some classes and learn my camera so that I could produce pictures that were good with or without the Photoshop.
Nice, nice.
Hi,
We have a shout out
Julie.
from Jennifer. Good morning, Jennifer. Thanks for saying hi to us. Appreciate it. So when you got on the digital side of the photography, uh, did
Mhm.
you did you have to take classes to be a skill in that craft, or how did
Yeah.
you tone your experience?
Yeah, so when I got a digital camera, I would have it on a program setting, and and I can get all sorts of technical and it gets boring. But basically, the program setting lets the camera figure it out for you. It has a sensor and it kind of figures it out for you, but it's not going to produce necessarily what you have in your mind. As far as like a blurred background, a more portrait setting. So the I was using that, and then I kept thinking, why? I know what I have in my head. Why am I not producing that? And so I realized quickly that I needed to learn my camera better. It's not as easy as, oh, you pick up a camera, you have it on the automatic setting, and you're good to go. Like, it's not going to give you what you are wanting for yourself. So
Now you mentioned that you do a lot auto, right? Am I saying that right? Manually?
Manual. I shoot only
Manual.
in manual now.
Yeah.
So
And is
when
that
the
because
camera,
so you can craft it, like you can tone it in and
so
okay.
it's basically controlling the light. So what I do is all the camera does is control the light. You have the aperture f-stop, you have the ISO, which is the sensor, and then you have the shutter speed, which is how fast the shutter closes. All three of those things will control the light. But you have to know what they do and how to calculate them. Like, I could go outside and I know the numbers. I know when I go outside, like even today it's overcast, I would say my ISO probably could be at 100, 200, an aperture of 2.8 is like my favorite for portraits. And then the shutter speed would probably be around 400. Like, it's just numbers.
Okay,
And
so for
you
someone
know,
that is digitally challenged, what is an ISO? Like explain that. Like what's that acronym?
the ISO is oh gosh, is it information sensor optimization? I'm probably going to say it wrong. So basically what it is it's the sensor internally in the camera that it tells it how much light to allow.
I see. Okay.
So it starts at 100, which is the best situation, which is when there's plenty of light, you want it at a 100. Now, if it's getting darker and darker, you start to bump it up, like, to 200, 400, 8, and it can go up really high. But the higher you go, the noisier your photos are going to be. So you get that noisy, pixelated, grainy. Like, there's lots of
Okay.
terms for it, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So
And then you mentioned the speed of the shutter. Like what's that mean?
the shutter speed is how fast that camera shutter is going to close down, which it used to flip, but now we're in mirrorless, so it's a little bit different. But so you don't.
Like
I
what does
try
it
not to
matter
go
about
below.
the shutter speed? Like why do you need different shutter speeds?
Well, if I was taking pictures of a family and they have kids running around, I don't want a low shutter speed that's slow, because then we're going to have, unless I'm doing it on purpose, but they're going to be blurred.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So if I'm doing sports photography, I want my shutter to be faster.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
You're educating me, Candy.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. And then so you went to school, you've learned your craft, and then there are so many type of photos out there. What is your craft? What's your specialty?
My specialty is boudoir and weddings. Those are my two niches that I enjoy the most. I just love them. I love them so much. I mean, just like working with women and people, and I mean, on the boudoir side, I love it because it's just it's women. Occasionally it's couples, but it's generally women that are wanting to capture a specific time in their life. Whether it be, oh, I've lost weight and I want to just see who I am now in this point in life, or I'm not losing weight and I just want to accept who I am no matter what. There's the brides who are in love and they feel really great about the confidence levels up. They're, like I said, they're in love. they have a groom that they want to give a gift to, so that's an idea. There's, you know, some are because it's an anniversary. I've shot some that just, it was just for themselves. And then weddings, well, that's obvious because that's like the biggest, that's a big day.
Sure.
And I would say that that was probably the most, that was probably a bigger leap for me. For a long time, I said no to weddings. I just wouldn't do them when I was asked.
Why is that?
'Cause I can't redo it. Like if you mess up, or
I
something
see.
happens, I can't replicate that. I may be able to get a bride and groom together to do a session, but I can't replicate the day.
So
So
do you think
it was
that,
that
like,
pressure.
do you, yeah, do you think it's like your insecurities of not doing it is what was holding you back at
Oh yeah.
first?
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of it was my insecurities and part of it was that I care too much. I don't mean like care
Hmm.
too much like that's a bad thing, but I care a lot. So so when someone would say, "Oh, my wedding," oh, that's an important day. Like please
Hmm.
look into as many photographers and find a really great photographer, a reputable one. I mean, obviously things happen. We're humans and there's gear issues and stuff like that. But
Sure.
I
So
cared a lot
tell us a
about it.
story, Candy. Tell us about your first wedding and your jitters and all that.
So I took on this first wedding, and I don't even remember what year it was. It was a while ago. I was in a photography group in Springfield, and so I was in this group, and I was talking to the local photographers. One of them being Pat Owens. She used to own Pat Owens Photography. She's since passed away, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Um, but she was like, you know, just you. She's like, you just got to do it. She's like, you'll be great. You just have to do it. And she said, you know, she asked me if I had this lens. She said, if you have a 50 millimeter lens, that would be a great portrait lens. And I said, oh, I don't have one. And she's like, she loaned me her lens, and
Mhm.
which is was really sweet and a big deal because lens can be very costly.
Sure.
So she loaned me her lens, and I I laugh now because I shot the entire wedding just with that one lens. I never switched it out to
Mhm.
anything. Um, and I don't know why, but I shot everything slightly crooked for artistic stakes, and you know I did a good
Turned out
job.
okay.
I would.
I mean, the way you're telling it, I'm like, yeah, but did it turn out okay?
It did turn out okay. Yeah. It's just it's more me critiquing myself now. Like
Sure.
looking back, I'm like, why did
Mm.
you do that? But but the couple loved it. They were happy with it. I got the shots that were needed. I got my feet wet. I remember going, and it was somebody that was like friends of the family. So my mom was going with me. And on
Mhm.
the way, I was like, I want to throw up. And she was like, you're
Oh.
going to be fine. I was like, no, I'm going to be sick. I think I'm going to be sick.
Mhm.
um, and it took a couple years of doing weddings when I started getting into it. Um, Before that subsided, that nervousness. And
Mhm.
now
A couple years, is
I
that
don't
right?
even think twice. Yeah, yeah. Just because I was always like, oh gosh, you know, do I have everything? And what if this goes wrong? And what it, you know, all these what ifs. And now I just go to weddings. I don't even have a checklist anymore. I mean, yeah, I tell couples you can send me a checklist if you want, but if you don't want to, I got it. I just know how weddings go now. That
Mhm. Sure.
it's like second nature. I don't even think about it. So I
That's
don't
good.
worry about it. I'm not sick to my stomach anymore.
That's good. Well, thanks for sharing that story. I kind of want to go back and when you were talking about the boudoir pictures and
Mhm.
how some of the so like being honest, like I was being maybe using stereotype with this, saying, okay, they're dressing up in lingerie, they're whatever, they're just doing that. I never
Right.
ever thought about them doing it for personal reasons, as in like losing weight or
Mhm.
identity, self-identity, or insecurities, or whatever it is. Can you tell us a story about something that touched your heart when you first got into it? Why somebody was doing photo shoot, bourgeois photo shoot?
Oh man, there's so many of them.
Mm.
um, there's it's like a collective because it's like a common theme. I've worked with so many women that you get used to, you hear this like common theme with them and stuff. But um I I would say one of them, she was doing for herself. She had had abuse and traumatic history and things that she was getting over, and she was going through therapy, and she was, because of things that had happened in her life, she just didn't feel beautiful.
Sure,
She
that
just
makes sense.
felt like a shell of herself.
Mm-hmm.
um and so part of her journey of getting back to taking care of herself, seeing who she is, and appreciating who she is. She wanted to do a session, and and a lot of times they'll, in my booking at the bottom of the form, it'll say, you can tell me why you're wanting to do the session, and a lot of times they'll tell me what it is, and for her it was to feel human again,
Mm-hmm.
to appreciate her femininity, and that
Mm-hmm.
she's a woman. I think sometimes we have women that, when they experience abuse of any kind, they really kind of close up and shell up, and then
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to even acknowledge that we're our femininity. We don't want to acknowledge it. We kind of deny it. And then when we start to get back to it, this has, I would say, doing this kind of session, and it's not for everybody. Some people wouldn't
Sure.
be interested, but for
Mm-hmm.
some, it really is. It's kind of magical because, like, I will show the back of my camera, not the whole time, but a couple times, because it actually relaxes the client, because once they see how it's going, and how beautiful they are in that
Mm-hmm.
screen, they're like, that's me, like, wow, like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't know, and I'm like, that's you, that's
Mm.
you, that's not an edited photo, that's all you. So
Wow.
um
Well,
I really enjoy it.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think that's wonderful. And just by you telling that story, like, I got heebie-jeebies and vibes or whatever inside, because I can totally relate to you know I can totally relate to that, and
Yeah.
how girls want to find themselves and heal from pain, hurt, whatever, and
Mhm.
just go to the next season of life and share that with some photos of themselves. So I think that's
Yeah.
100% beautiful. So that's wonderful. Speaking of that, now it is time to mention our sponsor, and we have another shout out. Amanda says hi.
Hi,
Amanda
Amanda.
Marie. We're going to get a hi to him. Um, so, so we have a sponsor for each podcast, and I want to say thank you, Candy, for sponsoring. Tell us a little bit about the half off sitting fee, and what would they get with the session?
So it depends on what they're getting. So on, like, my portrait sessions, which is, if you, it could be that you're doing a senior session, a family session, anything like that. The sitting fee is $100, and then you pick the package, and that's a separate price. So you would get 50% off the sitting fee, which makes it $50 to do the session, and then you could pick whichever package that you're wanting to buy. I have one that's like 10 images, and one that's like 24, I think. I think it's 24.
Okay.
um, or you have the boudoir side of it, which, the sitting fee, which is the sitting, I say sitting fee, it's the session fee, is $275, so it'd be half off of that, and then you could pick whichever package you're wanting with that. I have one package that's just a very basic package that's, I think, 10 images. There's no hair and makeup. Sometimes I have clients that just want a few images and that's all they want. But for the most part, a lot of my clients want, especially if they're doing boudoir, like most of us women, we're like, this is like I'm probably going to do this just once in my life. So I want to go ahead and do it. I want to do it right. So they do the next two packages are popular because they come with the hair and makeup, which is my favorite. And I just want to add in there.
Well, do you do the hair and makeup?
No, I mean, I occasionally will jump in and start doing hair with my makeup artist because I can, but I don't like to concentrate on the hair and makeup. So I have a hair and makeup artist. I mostly work with Lydia, and she's with Beloved Beauty. And so she comes over and we do it here in studio. And then, but I will tell you, I love when there's hair and makeup because it is like girl time. Like we're sitting there, we're chatting, we're going through what outfits you have, where, it's just girl play time. It's the best. And it really warms everybody up it warms the client up for the session. I mean, my makeup artist leaves, but if you don't have hair and makeup, it's like you walk in and it's like, okay, get your clothes off, let's go. And there's no like warm up.
Right.
So I like when there's hair and makeup in there. I'm like, I know we just met.
We all like the warm up, don't we, Candy? We all like the warm up.
Yeah, we all like that. We like that little bit before. But those packages and everything's on my site. I'm very transparent. I try to make it as clear as possible, like how it works. There's a session fee which pays for the time of the session and me setting up and doing all the stuff. And then there's the package that you can purchase, and that's what you're purchasing with that is the what's in the package, the hair and makeup, the images that you want, and like whatever product, a book or something that's in there. So
great. Well, perfect. And do you travel or you just stay in the Springfield area, like surrounding area, I guess I should say?
Oh, I travel. I mean, I've done boudoir sessions. Like I'll do a boudoir marathon up in I've done them in St. Louis and Kansas City, and I think that's it as far as me going somewhere. I have clients come to me. I'm always willing to go to their home, but rarely do I have clients that want me to come to their home. I think part of that is I work with a lot of clients that are moms. I'm a mom. And I'm like, I really don't want to stress about my house and stuff. Yes. So they just always come to me. But I've had people come from Columbia and Oklahoma and Arkansas and all over the place to do a session. But I'm willing to travel. And obviously I travel for weddings for, all the time. Okay.
And then what's your website? How can people contact you?
My website's www. Do I even have to say that? It's candybee.com.
It's what is it again? I think I interrupted you.
It's candybee.com. No, I'm sorry. It's lovecandybee.com.
Lovecandybee.com. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. And we just have a few minutes left, but at the end of the podcast, I always like to give words of wisdom. So if somebody's trying to get into this business, what would be your advice or words of wisdom for them?
My words of wisdom for somebody trying to get into this business, and probably any entrepreneur business, if you are going to go to school, go for business marketing. business marketing, social media marketing. That's going to be the biggest thing. As far as the photography part, the skills, you can hone that in with a lot of online courses and practice and doing that at home. But you're really going to want to learn those business skills and price yourself correctly at the beginning. Don't sell yourself short just because you're trying to make your way.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate your time, Candy, and this was so fun. And I love that you came on here and shared your story, and hopefully it inspires other people to follow their dreams.
I hope so. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you have a great day, and thank you everybody for listening. Appreciate it. All right, bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Bye.
Bye bye.